What could ice cream at Disneyland have to do with selling houses here in Australia and New Zealand and the UK and the UAE and the US and in fact everywhere in the world? Well, it actually comes back down to a really simple basic philosophy. There's this young child who goes to Disneyland, and when they're at Disneyland they go and order an ice cream. And as they go to order an ice cream, they go to lick the ice cream, and what happens? The ice cream actually falls to the ground. And then what happens is that the child's like really upset about this. But from Disneyland's perspective, it's actually not service success. So what they do is they go and remake the ice cream, then they bring it out to the child and give it to the child and teach them how to lick the ice cream so the ice cream doesn't fall to the ground. Now this is actually a really important point because service success actually happens when we identify areas of service failure. Now, what are the areas in your business where you've failed at a service level, and what can you do to immediately get to service recovery, where you go to fix the issue for the client and really back the customer in? Now, this is an interesting conversation. I was talking to a coaching client recently who was telling me about a situation where he was going to auction on the Saturday and we were meeting on the Friday, and he'd had the reserve meeting with the client the night before. Now, the problem was that during the course of the campaign, there was a number of public holiday weeks. And what had actually happened is that he had promised to the client that they would have their ad in the paper. And guess what happened in week one? There was no ad in the paper. So he guarantees to them that there would definitely be the ad in week two, because there was supposed to be an ad in every week of the campaign. And what happens in week two? No ad in the paper. Now, it was a short auction campaign, and leading now onto the third Saturday where the auction was going to be, he was now having that reserve meeting with them on the Thursday where they clearly identified something interesting. They said, look, I've got to let you know that I just never guessed that we'll know the difference that those two ads in the paper could have made to us and our sale price. Now, at that point, that really hurts as an agent, because you were inside of that listing presentation talking to them about the importance of putting the ad in the paper, about really separating the home and differentiating it from all of the other properties in the market, and now you've actually failed. So I said to him, so what are you planning to do? Well, he said, the problem is I was talking with my principal and we're actually considering to still charge for the ads that didn't appear. Now, this is a real challenge for me because A, you can't charge for ads that haven't appeared. And secondary thing, we've massively failed the customer right now. You need to back the customer in from a success point of view. So what would I have done in this situation? Well, I would have actually gone and had the conversation with the client and say, Mr. and Mrs. Owner, I've got to let you know that from our perspective, this is what we call service failure. It happens very rarely in our business, but occasionally when it does happen, we need to really learn from it and to make sure that we fix up all of our checklists to ensure that no consumer ever goes through this again. But where there's service failure, we need to think about something called service recovery. Now, we can't put another ad in the paper because this Saturday is obviously the auction. And so what we need to do is to go to auction day and see what result that we get. And we're going to do everything in our power to really make sure that we maximize the sale price for you. But once the sale has actually been completed, I want to let you know that from our perspective, we actually want to reopen the negotiation around fee. Because as far as we're concerned, we actually haven't delivered that level of service that we'd promised in the initial stages of our conversation because there has been that service failure. And in fact, we're even considering that there may not be any fee at all in any way. Now, a lot of people see this as going quite hard, but the idea is to go super hard so the customer will bounce back and be reasonable. No, Josh, you've done all the things. I get it. Mistakes happen in business. Thanks for being so understanding. Let's go to auction day and let's see how we go. And that's really what we want to do. You see, in business, if you're not prepared to admit where you failed the customer, then how will you ever recover? And remember, a customer that's failed is someone who's out there talking to other people about why not to use you. It's kind of the worst marketing that you could ever do. Whereas service recovery is about doing what's right, fixing the issue, fixing the challenge. So then the customer says, you know what? You backed me in that moment of vulnerability. You backed me in that moment where I was unsure about what to do. And because you did that, I'm actually now going to tell other people to use you because you're so great at what you do. So in your business today, where are the areas where you have service failure? And what can you do to really fix it so that you get to service recovery? And most importantly, how do you actually prevent those failures from ever happening again? This is the importance of making sure that you got great checklists, great forms, great dialogues, and great visuals, but that you actually learn from your mistakes by updating all of those to prevent those critical errors from happening again. There's a startling statistic out of the United States. 440,000 hospital patients die every year due to preventable errors. That's huge. Here's the question. How many millions of dollars in fees every year does your agency lose because of preventable errors? Get on top of it, understand where the service failure is, put in the service recovery, and build a business that actually learns from its mistakes. Well, I really hope that you've enjoyed this week's coaching tip, and I look forward to seeing you next week.